So we're finally winding down to the very end of 2018. It's been a pretty great year overall for film. You know, obviously there's been a fair share of pretty bad films as well. That's why we're getting into my top 10 worst of the year. Some of these films really just got under my skin. Like, I just hated watching these films. They just, like, crushed my soul. But, you know, before I get into my top 10 worst of the year, I do have some few dishonorable mentions, such as Mile 22, Welcome to Marwen, Gringo, Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald, and also The Predator. All of those just barely missed the cut, but before I get in my number 10, leave a comment below listing some of the films you thought were the worst of 2018. Obviously, we may not agree on all of them, but it's still fun to talk about films, so like I said, leave a little bit of what you thought were the worst of 2018, and we'll get the discussion going. But let's move on to my number 10. So I, like most people, my mind was blown when they announced the trailer for this film during the Super Bowl, and not only that, but they were going to release it right after the Super Bowl ended, so right from the Super Bowl right to watching this movie, and I was excited because I'm a huge Cloverfield fan, but this film really it just left much to be desired. I mean, it's another one of those films in the Cloverfield franchise where they kind of just take an existing movie and slap some new scenes into it to make it into the universe, and it shows. You know, you can definitely tell that there was some added news scenes and stuff like that to make it kind of connect to the universe, even though it really didn't for the most part, which I thought was kind of disappointing, that it was supposed to, like, answer questions that we've had for the Cloverfield universe, and it really didn't. It just kind of just made more questions, which I don't really like that when a film does that. But, I mean, like I said, this film it wasn't supposed to be a Cloverfield film. You can definitely tell. It's very derivative of other sci-fi films. I mean, it's got a great cast. You know, David Oyelowo, Elizabeth Debicki, Gugu Mbatha-Raw. So many great characters are in this. Oh yeah, Daniel Bruhl as well. I mean, stat cast. It's just such a disappointing sci-fi film. And it just is a really, really slow-moving film. There's so much exposition, and they don't really show too much. Like I said, this film just feels very muddled. I mean, not very much goes on in this, and by the end, you're kind of just scratching your head. You don't know what you just watched. It's just not a very good sci-fi film, and I mean, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen this year, but it's definitely not really an enjoyable, rewatchable kind of film. I know some people might take this as a hot take, but I really didn't enjoy Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom all that much. Of course, it made a shit ton of money, because I believe it's in the top 10 highest grossing films of the year, but that doesn't just mean it's an overall great film. There's nothing really that memorable about this film. The script is just horrible. There's no memorable or likable characters. Not even Chris Pratt or Bryce Dallas Howard are really even that likable in this, and most of the movie really just doesn't capture the magic of any of the other films. Even the first Jurassic World actually had some of that magic, and you liked some of the characters, and it kept you engaged, but I never found myself really that interested in any of the characters in this. Nothing really happened that I really enjoyed. Most of the stuff it happens in the mansion. Like, most of the interesting dinosaur stuff, it's basically just like a dinosaurs in a house, and they're getting chased around for the most part, and I just couldn't get myself interested in this movie. I mean, the new dinosaur, the Indoraptor, I mean, he's kind of cool looking, but it's just like dinosaurs creeping around dark, shadowy corridors, and I just couldn't connect. I love Jurassic Park as a franchise, and I had some hope with Jurassic World, and then they kind of just shattered it a little bit with Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I just don't see myself being very interested in the third one, although I'll probably will see it, because the second one, this one just felt kind of like a filler movie with generic villains and generic plot to get you to the third film, where the third film is supposed to be much more interesting. But this one, yeah, it just kind of fell flat for me. So Truth or Dare from Blumhouse is one of those movies I felt like could have been interesting if it was executed properly. Like, the whole concept of Truth or Dare, and if you don't do the truth or the dare, then you die, and I mean, that seems like an okay premise for a horror movie. I mean, in this horror genre where anything can go, and the whole smiling derpy thing just threw me off. It was just so dumb. And not only that, but the characters in this are all unlikable, and it's PG-13, so you can't really do much when it comes to the gore or the death aspect for a horror movie. So there's really nothing there. There's no substance to keep you interested. All the characters, they just laugh off people's deaths. Like, people like get their necks broken, and then they make like a funny quip, like they don't understand the gravity of the situation. It's just a horrible movie overall. I mean, it's maybe one of those movies that you can like enjoy in like it's a so dumb kind of way, but personally, I just did not like anything about this movie. The characters are horrible. The script, it didn't go anywhere interesting. What she does at the very end, I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen this movie for some reason, but the main antagonist kind of just screws over everybody at the end, and it leaves you on the horrible cliffhanger, and I really just did not enjoy Truth or Dare. This is one of those films that I thought was really disappointing because it's such a cool concept, this whole steampunk kind of worlds colliding kind of action movie, but it's just not as interesting as I thought it was going to be. It was actually really dull. Most of the characters were very bland, and I really didn't care about them even when they actually gave us some backstory about them. And Peter Jackson wrote this film. He didn't direct it like a lot of people seem to think. He wrote this film with a couple other people that are also from the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And they just really just disappointed me. This film just... It was just so dull. Like, when I watched it in the theater, I actually was kind of like, just waiting for it to end. It's one of those kind of movies that was just, nothing really kept my interest. I really feel like this could have worked probably even better actually as a series. If this was actually a series, I think it would have kept my interest more. But since they crammed everything into this movie with all these uninteresting, bland characters with this story, I really wasn't invested in. I mean, the visuals are great. The visuals is like the one thing I could give this movie credit for. But other than that, this film really just lacked any substance. Robin Hood was one of those movies I knew was going to be pretty bad going in, but it definitely exceeded my expectations on just how bad it was. I mean, not only just were the clothes off for the time period, they look like something I could pick up in Nordstrom's right now, just because, even though it's supposed to be like a period piece. Not only that, but the acting as well, with all these great actors doing horrible performances, like Taron Egerton, Jamie Foxx, Jamie Dornan. All these different actors are in this movie, and they've been good in other movies. They're just really bad in this. Bad acting. Oh, Ben Mendelsohn as the villain is just so over the top. It's the funniest thing, but it's in a bad way kind of funny. And you got like this crazy superhero style 300 slow-mo and then speed up real quick after they do the slow-mo. And it's just not a really good story. Even the CGI is bad. And do we really need another Robin Hood movie and try to make him into like a modern day 300 style action hero? It just fell flat on every category. Also, I don't even understand why Jamie Foxx was Little John in this. It was just so... It was so offbeat. It just felt really out of character. With not only that, but his accent changed throughout the movie a couple times. Actually, everybody's accents kind of changed. It was kind of weird. It just goes to show you how bad the direction was and the writing was, that nothing came together in this. It was just a big old mess. My God, was The Open House a super boring film. I mean, it's like an hour and a half of nothing. Pretty much... start off a little bit of an interesting build-up where the family moves into the home and all that. But other than that, it's just a snore fest. It's just so boring. Nothing happens. It's 90 minutes of people just walking around creepy, dark corridors, looking around. Maybe a door opens here and there, and you get no questions answered. I mean, there's so many questions that are not answered in this, and they have the audacity to kind of try and set up a sequel at the end of this that I laugh if they ever actually do, because this is one of the worst films I've ever seen. Not even just this year. It's so boring. I mean, as a horror fan, I expected at least some type of scary elements, but there's nothing here. It's just literally like an abandoned house. It's almost like they ran out of money, so they couldn't really do too much. It's really just a really, really bad film. I don't recommend this. This is probably one of the worst Netflix films I've ever seen. It's definitely up there, actually. The Happy Time Murders is another one of those movies I thought probably could have been done well if the right people were involved, but I mean, I'm not a huge Melissa McCarthy fan, so this film definitely fell flat for me. I mean, it's kind of cool to see puppets and stuff like that in this day and age, even though it's raunchy puppets is not really like my thing, obviously. But nothing in this movie really made me laugh. I just thought it was more cringy than funny, and the whole stereotypical cop, who did it kind of story. It just, nothing really grabbed me. It was just raunchy puppets making really cringy, gross sexual jokes, and it just was so dumb. I mean, not just that. As Melissa McCarthy, I just don't like her delivery, and she falls down in every movie she's in, and she's just never been that funny to me. I really don't know why she keeps doing these movies, but the script overall never kept my interest. The puppets drama never kept my interest. The movie just fell flat in every category. I definitely don't recommend you see this film if for some reason you're thinking about it still. Unless raunchy puppets are your thing, in that case, feel free to enjoy this film. I waited a long time to check out this film knowing that it was going to be pretty bad, and it was. Gotti is just straight up garbage pretty much from start to finish. John Travolta, he's okay in the role as John Gotti, but the story around him just really was all over the place. It was just very muddled. The way that the story kind of just shifted from one event to the next with no explanation. It really just felt like we just got random little bits of biographical things spliced together with some really bad musical choices. The music in this film is done by Pitbull for some reason. who I guess, like, I mean, he's just doing really bad music when it comes to, like, this, and then he did that Toto Africa remake for the Aquaman film that just came out. I don't know what his idea is of good music for musical scores, but you could have got someone a little bit better than Pitbull to rearrange these random rap songs in this Gotti movie that really made no sense, where it would just jump from one event in his life and then it would go to a whole complete event like way in the future. Then they wouldn't connect. Nothing in this movie connected at all. It's just a bunch of random splice scenes together of mobster stuff, and it never made any sense. So this film overall was just a huge mess. I mean, the only somewhat saving grace is John Travolta as John Gotti is somewhat enjoyable, but everything else in this film was just straight up trash. A Wrinkle in Time by far is one of the more grueling experiences I've had seeing a film in 2018. I mean, the movie is, just as a whole, was just so horrible. The characters and all that were bland. The story wasn't interesting. Especially, like, well, speaking of characters again, the kids in the film, I mean, they did their best. I try not to give too much flack to the kids, but the kid who played Charles Wallace is just flat out god-awful. I hope that he, like, takes some lessons or something. I mean, I'm not like I'm saying I'm the greatest actor in the world either, because I'm not. But, I mean, like, he's just very annoying, and just the line delivery he gives is so cringy. Nothing is believable. There's so many great actors and actresses in this film, and they all fall flat. They're so bland. They're given nothing. Like Goomba Ra, I mean, makes her second appearance because she was in Cloverfield Paradox as well. But Chris Pine is in this. Oprah Winfrey, Reese Witherspoon, Mindy Kaling. There's so many great actors and actresses in this, and they all give really bland, flat performances. And the story itself just really wasn't interesting. There was no stakes, there was no really highs or lows, there's nothing to keep my interest with this story. It kind of just went on a steady pace of just boring, while I got some really cool visuals every now and then with like a giant Oprah the size of a house, or Reese Witherspoon randomly turns into like a giant piece of flying lettuce. I mean, other than the visuals, this film really was just boring, dull, and I really hate this film, and I hope to never see it again. Slenderman by far is my worst film of 2018. It just fails in every category. I mean, it's every horror cliche, trope, whatever you want to call it, thrown into a movie, just done even worse than in the movies that they already have those tropes. None of the characters really that compelling. Joey King and the other girls, they're just really dull, bland characters. There's nothing interesting. There's no substance to this movie. Like, you think there's going to be some creepy corridor stuff going on that might keep your interest. You know, Slenderman might pop out here and there. And even when he does pop out, he looks horrible. I mean, the CGI on him with the weird tentacles and all that, it just was very subpar for a film that's supposed to be like a major theatrical release. And, like, I mean, the Slenderman fad has faded from, like, it would have been popular if maybe this film came out, like, 5 years ago or something like that, but it's just so played out by now. It's just there's nothing interesting in this, and they were not ambitious with this film at all. There's nothing interesting to keep it scary. It's just an overall lackluster experience, and it's not even it's just not worth anyone's time. It's just probably the biggest waste of time in the movies I've seen this year. It's just the biggest waste of time. So yeah, those are my top 10 worst films of 2018. Like I said before, leave a comment below what you thought some of the worst films of 2018 were. Even if they weren't on my list, I may have forgotten them, or I haven't seen them because I haven't seen every film this year. But I'm going to do my best. Since I did a top 10 worst of 2018, I'm going to try my best to do a little top 10 of 2018, because there's a lot of great films that came out this year. So it may be tough to narrow it down to the top 10. We'll see how that goes. But thanks so much for checking out my little top 10 video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to leave a like, hit that subscribe button, keep up with my movie reviews, trailer reactions, unboxings, and more. But until next time, I'll see you guys later.